Hey everybody, oh wow. Look at my red screen. Fancy. I don't know if red is my color. What do you guys think? Hey everybody. Hi, happy Thursday morning, or whatever time it is, wherever it is. Hey Selma, hi Rosa. Lots of people here. Lots of new people in the chat, I see. Yeah, cool. Questions are coming in already. The screen is rad. All right. So hi, if it's your first time to class, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I see some familiar names. Steve is here. Yaprak, Zainab. I see Eric, Michael. Red is a vibrant color. It is indeed. I'm not sure if it brings out the color in my eyes or what, but. Hi, greetings from Vancouver, Canada. My name is Shaun. If you don't know me, I'm going to be your teacher for the next hour or so, and I'm coming to you live from Canadian College of English Language here in Vancouver, as I said. All right, so it's 9 o'clock in the morning here. It's a little cloudy, a little rainy. I hope it's nice wherever you are. You think the awesome background. You love the music. Lady in red. You guys are crazy. All right, so welcome everybody. Good to see you. And I look forward to having this class today. Of course, we've got lots of other classes that you guys can watch. Some of you were in Nicole's class earlier. You've got Mark's class and Neil's class and Josh's classes. And of course, here we've got our friend Zach in the chat as the moderator throughout the class. I'm starting to like this red color actually behind me. I think it suits me. Yeah. Right. If you have questions during the class, put them in the chat, and we will try to answer them as quickly and as well as we can. Okay, and as often as we can. All right. So questions, comments, put them in the chat. Zach will help you, or I will help you. I'm excited. Let's get rolling here. All right, I'm gonna have a little sip of water. Ah, delicious. Okay, so let's jump into the lesson. All right, so I thought today we would introduce our topic by discussing etiquette. Etiquette. All right, what is etiquette? Etiquette. When we're talking about etiquette, the word means manners or politeness, right? Behavior of knowing what is polite or what is impolite in certain situations, all right? We are not talking about manners all day, but we will for a couple minutes here, okay, as a way to introduce the lesson. So etiquette, obviously what is polite and what is impolite can differ from culture to culture, right? In one country or another country, the ideas of what is polite or impolite can be different. Okay, so when traveling to another country, it's important sometimes to know what is considered appropriate behavior or inappropriate behavior, appropriate clothing or inappropriate clothing, and so on. All right, so I thought I would ask a question to get things rolling today. So advice for travelers. We've got a very global little classroom here, right? Valerie's here. Hi, Valerie. So many people here. It's great. Kayo's here too. Good. So advice for travelers. We've got a global classroom here. Lots of people in the chat from all over the world. If someone was visiting your country, okay, if somebody was coming to your country for a holiday from another culture, what advice could you give them about something that might be considered impolite or inappropriate or inconsiderate or disrespectful or something in your country, right? Little things. Obviously, cultures are different, and one thing that's fine here might not be acceptable over here. So my question is, in your country, what is something that most people consider impolite, to see the differences? Now, as I said, I am in Vancouver, and I teach students from all over the world. So this is a topic that we discuss in class. This is something that I've talked with students about over many years, because obviously when they come to Canada, the topic comes up, right? What is considered impolite or polite behavior? Guadalupe is from Cuba, I think you said, right? Profanity is considered impolite? Yeah, sure. Right, of course. Good example. All right. So one thing that I've talked to my students about before is to give you an example. In Canada, Canadian culture, how do you get the waiter's attention in a restaurant? If you're in a restaurant or a cafe or something like that, how do you get the waiter or server to come to your table? Because I know that in some countries, it's perfectly acceptable. That was last week's class, right? Talking about intensifiers, right? Perfectly fine to call out to somebody from across the room and say, like, hey, come over here, right? The middle finger is impolite in your country. Yeah, I think that's universal. Oh, well, maybe not universal, but yeah, that's same here. So for example, I lived in Korea for a while, okay? And in Korea, it's perfectly acceptable if you're in a restaurant to call out to your waiter to say, basically to say, over here, come over here. But obviously, or not obviously, I shouldn't say, in Canada, that is considered impolite, right? You would basically kind of put your hand up a little bit, maybe try to make eye contact, I don't know, and just kind of wait. There's no good answer on how to get there, how to make them come over, but shouting to them is not considered appropriate. So when I was in Korea, it took me a while to get my lunch, because I would go into the restaurant and I would sit and I would wait and wait and wait, because as a Canadian, it was so different for me to have to call out for somebody. But if you don't, it's possible that they won't come to your table. So eventually I had to start eventually I got comfortable and I was yelling at everybody and it was fine, right? But this is an example of something that is impolite in one country and polite in another, right? Okay, so some examples here. Kissing in public, so public displays of affection, hugging and kissing. Snapping your fingers, people are saying is considered impolite or disrespectful perhaps. Yeah, right. Cool. What else? Yeah, snapping fingers. Tipping, interesting, would be impolite. Yes, I've heard that. And that's a good example of something that's very much acceptable in Canada. It's very much a part of our culture. But when you go to other countries, tipping can be considered impolite or disrespectful. Absolutely. Good. All right. Now, this is good. Now, I'm not talking about this because I'm discussing etiquette today, although actually that would be maybe a good topic for a future class. Kind of like polite English for sure. Dilly's saying not bowing to your father-in-law is impolite. Romance in public is impolite. Yeah, impolite in Turkey too. Okay. Well, we've got people from all over in the chat today. This is great. Okay, so the reason I'm asking this is not because I want to talk about etiquette or manners, really, but because while I was talking about it, I said these 4 words, among other words, right? Inappropriate clothing, Michael's saying, good one. So I said impolite, disrespectful, unacceptable, and inconsiderate. These are 4 words that I have said, and the reason for that is today's lesson is all about this part of the word, right? Today we're talking about what we call prefixes, okay? So we're going to introduce it. I'm going to talk a little bit about prefixes. This is a topic that really we could spend several classes talking about. We're going to talk about some very specific types of prefixes today. Focus on word building, right? Building your vocabulary and whatnot, okay? So we'll start with that. So today, prefixes. Oh, then some more stuff is coming in here. Wearing revealing clothing is impolite. Not serving your parents. Okay, yeah. Okay. Cool. It's saying excuse me very loudly. Okay, this is, yeah, good. Okay, so prefixes. Before we talk about a prefix, we have to go back to what we talked about a few lessons ago. We talked about suffixes, okay? So to make it clear, a suffix, which we talked about in a previous class, suffixes are word endings, little bits that you put on the end of a word to change the meaning of the word, to make a new word, right? So a couple weeks ago, we were talking about word families and how one word can be connected to other parts of speech. And if you put little endings on it, it can change the part of speech and create a new word, right? So we were talking about, for example, a word like argue can become arguable as an adjective, arguably, adverb, argument as the noun, argumentative as another adjective, and you could even go so far as to say argumentatively, right? Argumentatively. Jonico is saying you started to invite your friends to the class. Good, yeah, invite your friends. Tell everybody about it, right? So this is what we're talking about today, word building, right? Creating new words from others, yeah? So those are suffixes. Today's focus is on prefixes. Do you see it? Or is this a new couple? I know basically every picture of couples I put on the screen in this class seem to be fighting for some reason. I need to start putting more happy couples in class, I think. Chewing with your mouth open is considered impolite. Yes, it's the same here. Good one. Okay, so vocabulary focus, prefixes. What is a prefix? Well, if a suffix goes at the end of a word, a prefix goes at the beginning. So it's letters or short words that you put at the beginning of a word to make a new word, right? Now, the interesting thing here is in the word prefix, prefix has a prefix, which is pre. Pre is a prefix, right? The letters pre, pre, mean before. So if you put that at the beginning of a word, it will affect the meaning. It will change the meaning, right? And this is a common one. This is one that you guys have seen many times, I'm sure, okay? So pre, for example, preview means to view before, right? A movie preview. Or preheat, you preheat your oven, right? Preteen. You can tell me what a preteen is in the chat. How old do you think a preteen is? And I'll tell you in a minute, right? Predisposition, you can put them with nouns. Preconception, meaning ideas people have before they experience something. On the topic of traveling to other countries, people often have preconceptions of other cultures before they enter that country or that culture, right? You have ideas that you have formed before you know, and that is called a preconception, right? Pre-war, Marianne's here, hey. Yeah, prehistoric, good, 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 good. Furia Angel saying, what is suffix? Well, yes, suffix. SU itself, we're not really going to focus on that today, but there are lots of other prefixes that we're going to look at. Okay? Preteen is almost a teen. Yeah, right. So preteen means someone who's around, I don't know, 11 years old or something, 10 or 11 years old. Justin Bieber fans are largely preteens, I think. And I guess maybe some grown men, but some preteens. 7 to 11. Okay. You guys are getting way ahead of me. Inflammable. This is good. Okay. So understanding prefixes. Why is it important to talk about prefixes, right? Because it expands your vocabulary, right? If you have a command of prefixes, you will be able to create new words without really learning any new words, right? It's a great way of taking your knowledge of one specific word and expanding it, very much like we talked about with suffixes. Okay. Now, it helps you with your vocabulary and therefore will also improve your reading comprehension or your comprehension of the language in general. If you understand that pre means before, then if you encounter new words, predict, prevent, predetermined, you know that all of those words contain some kind of meaning having to do with before, right? So that's why it's important to look at these prefixes. And this is what we're going to do today. Now, as I said, the world of prefixes seems endless. There's so many prefixes that we will really focus on one specific thing today, okay, when it comes to vocabulary and word building. We're going to look at adjective prefixes, okay? How to change adjectives by putting stuff at the beginning. Pre-intermediate, precede. You guys are premature. That's a good one too. All right. So let's look at them. Let's start with what we call negative adjectives or negative prefixes, right? Prefixes that you put in a word to make it the opposite meaning or to give it a negative meaning. Now, there are plenty of those, but with adjectives, I'd say these are the main 6. There are a couple other ones that we'll look at in a bit, but these 6 are the most common negative prefixes for adjectives, okay? Some of these may be used for verbs and whatnot too, but today we're going to focus on adjectives, okay, guys? Inflammatory, wow, that's a good word. Nice one, Rosa. Preamble. Wow, you guys are rocking it in the chat. All right, so un, in, dis, im, ir, and il, okay? Now, I've got good news and bad news, kind of. With prefixes, these guys down here, there is kind of a rule that will help you know when you can use these, right? But unfortunately, these 3 guys up here, it's a guessing game, right? In many cases, with prefixes, there's really no set rule or way for you to use logic to figure out if you use un, in, or dis, right? It's really about seeing the words, remembering them, and trying to use them again. Or just going for it, trying something, making a mistake, and fixing it, okay? So, again, we're going to start kind of basic today, and then I'm going to give you something to do later that's, I think, is going to be pretty challenging. I think so anyway, but you guys are always impressing me with how good you guys are, okay? So let's see. The rules for these 3, the rule is simple. Im, goes with a word that starts with M, right? It can't go with, well, it can go with 2 letters. One, im, like immature, okay? And P as in polite. So immature and impolite, those are really the only 2 letters that im can go with, okay? IR obviously goes with R, right? So regular becomes irregular. Wow, you guys, irritation, irresponsible, good. Immature, improbable. You guys are cranking them out. Good, okay. So IR goes with R and IL goes with L, right? Like illegal or illogical or illiterate or illegitimate, okay? Now, but the tricky thing is IM, this prefix here, can only go with words that start with M or P, but it doesn't necessarily mean that every adjective with M goes with this prefix. It doesn't work the other way, and I'll show you an example in a minute, okay? Now, these 3, as I said, there's really no way around it other than trying it, going for it, making a mistake, and fixing it. Illegible, dislike. Good one. Jonico, just remember that dislike, that's a good prefix, but that's actually a verb, right? Okay? All those other ones there in the chat, most of them are adjectives. Dissimilar, that's a good one. Now, dis is a good example, right? I don't know what that was. I forget what my point was there. But dis, you can put with respectful. You don't say irrespectful, you say disrespectful, right? Now, maybe these images here are your frustration over prefixes, yeah? I hope you're feeling okay. But dis, as I said, yeah, discount and disorder, those are good prefixes as well. Disappear, discount, and disorder, though, aren't adjectives, though, guys, okay? But that's good. Disconnected, discard. You guys are you're going for it. You're throwing them all out there. Nice. Okay, so you guys seem so eager to do some practice that I'm gonna make you guys do some practice, okay? Because as I said, it's really about just getting in there and going for it, doing some heavy lifting, maybe making a mistake or two. But there's a little bit of guesswork, and it's really about paying attention when you read and when you hear the language to our use of prefixes and trying to get a handle on that, because there's no other way to do it. Disappointed, good one, Zainab. Unprofessional, indispensable, nice one. All right, so how about this? I'm going to ask my good friend Zach to put the link to this document into the chat. I'm going to make mine nice and big so everybody can see it. Again, we're going to keep it simple for now. We're going with the easy ones. Independent, good one. All right, so Zach put the link in there. Open up this document, or you can just look on the screen. That's fine too. If you open up the document, make sure to make a copy of it. Disinterested, that's a good one too. All right, now I've given you 8 sentences. In each sentence, there are adjectives. Okay, so at least one adjective, maybe more. Your job is read the sentence, find the adjective, add a prefix, make it negative. Okay, so the first one we'll do together as one big happy family here. And we'll say, he was unrecognizable after the surgery. Okay, recognizable. If you want to make that negative, the opposite is unrecognizable. Disdain, Dilly, that's a good word too. That's a verb or a noun, though, not an adjective, but that's a good one. All right, so these are all adjectives. He was unrecognizable after the surgery. I think hopefully that's in a good way. Okay, so I'm going to disappear from the screen. I'm going to drink some water because I've got a bit of a scratch in my throat here. So I'm going to disappear. I'm going to enjoy my water and watch you guys sweat it, do some work. Take the words, make them negative, right? Add prefixes, and just put your answers in the chat, and then we'll go over them together. You don't have to put the whole sentence. You can just put the letter and the adjectives in there, and then we'll go over it. Okay? And if you're not sure, I don't know, go for a guess. Make a random guess and see if you can come up with the irritable. Yeah, if you can come up with the answer. All right, I'm going to pop off the screen. I'm going to put that jazzy music on that Mark picked up for me today, and change the words on the screen. Make them negative adjectives. Okay, guys, go for it. Nice one. You guys are just cranking out the answers, filling up the chat. Good to see. Lots of stuff coming in. And yeah, good to see you just going for it. Now, there are a couple ones that might be a little tricky, but you guys are doing well anyway. So we said the first one was he was unrecognizable after the surgery. And I noticed that I think Sergey preferred the previous music, yeah? I think maybe I did too. I think I like my monkey music. Maybe I'll bring that back next week. Yeah. I do appreciate the effort that Mark made, though. It's nice. Okay. So B, employees of the company are, what did you guys say for that one? I think I saw some eligible. Doesn't quite work. The answer for this one is ineligible. Ineligible means they are not permitted. They are not allowed to enter the contest. Okay, maybe I'll make my prefixes blue to stand out. Yeah, nice. Okay, so first one we said unrecognizable. Next one we said ineligible. Good. Ineligible also could sometimes mean available, right? Like if a person is eligible, means they're single, right? They're unmarried. All right. Kaio, I missed that. What situation do you hate? Which letter are you talking about there? So C, they hired a trainer to deal with their, and most people got that. You said disobedient. Disobedient. That's right. So a dog that does not listen to you. I don't know if any dog owners out there. Maybe Kaio, maybe that's the situation you hate. I'm not sure. I'm not a dog owner, so I don't have to deal with disobedient dogs. I have some kids that are sometimes disobedient, though, I guess. All right. D, many people accuse the newspaper of accurate reporting and responsible journalism. In this case, in this sentence, I threw two adjectives at you. I think Marianne got it and said inaccurate reporting, right? Not accurate is inaccurate, and inaccurate reporting could also be considered irresponsible journalism, right? Irresponsible. Good, okay. All right, what about E? The man's handwriting was often legible and his points logical. All right, who got that one? Farah Angel. Farah, am I saying that correctly? Fix it. Correct me if I'm saying it wrong. But you got it. You said illegible. If something is illegible, it means you cannot read it. Think about oftentimes maybe a doctor's handwriting is illegible. I don't know if there are any doctors out there. My apologies if you're a doctor. All right. And illogical. You're right. Okay, so illegible and illogical. Nice. All right. And F, though the plan was perfect. Who's got the opposite of perfect? What's the negative of perfect? Samir got it. Good for you. All right, it said imperfect. Right, the noun being imperfection, right? Though the plan was imperfect, they decided to go ahead with it anyway. Nice. All right. Okay, what about G? She was available. She will be available for the remainder of the day. Who's got that one? Who's got that one? Anybody? Zainab got it. Good for you. All right, got it. She will be unavailable. And the last one, I enjoy this restaurant, but the food is a little inconsistent, right? Not consistent. Oh yeah, to be consistent, how about I make these all blue? Let's be consistent. All right. So inconsistent, meaning sometimes the food's really good, sometimes it's not so great, right? That's inconsistent. So I think for restaurants, consistency is very important. Inconsistency can be a problem. All right, so that was good. That's kind of maybe the easy part. Let's expand it a little bit. Okay, let's talk about more adjective suffixes. Okay, guys, are you ready for more? I hope so. And again, some of these might not be new to you. You might know a lot of these, okay? So they're very common. These are more common adjective prefixes. Here's a good list, right? So a, non, anti, counter, hyper, pro, multi, extra, super, sub, inter, and then look at that, a nice space for my head there to go. That's perfect. Okay. All right. So a couple of these are negative adjectives, but some of them are not negative. They affect the meaning of the word. They change the meaning. So let's talk about some of these, and then let's get you guys to use them. All right. I'm getting a thumbs up. Thumbs up for Shaun's class. Good. All right. A thumbs up to you guys for doing so well in the exercise. Okay. So let's talk about it. The first two, a and non. These guys are also negative adjectives. Okay. They're just maybe a little bit less common than the other 6 that we looked at, right? Superman. Yeah. I think you're probably talking about this and probably not talking about me with Superman, yeah? All right, so a and non. So for example, the package was delivered with atypical speed, right? Atypical. Now in this sentence, or in this word, the prefix a, just that letter means not. So atypical means not typical. If you think about maybe you go to the doctor because you have atypical symptoms for some kind of condition, meaning a patient does not have the typical signs of some kind of illness, right? Is atypical. A word like apolitical means not political. If you don't care about politics one way or the other, you're not interested in politics, you can consider yourself apolitical, right? Counterattack is, that's a good use of that prefix, Kaio. It's just counterattack would be a verb or a noun, not an adjective, right? Oh, look at this magical setting here, right? Look at this beautiful unicorn and flying through the beautiful sky. Unfortunately for me, unicorns are non-existent, right? So the prefix non, means not, right? Okay, it's a negative prefix. Joniko is asking, how many prefixes are there? Well, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. Probably more than I care to sit and count. There are so many, Joniko, that I can't really tell you how many there are, because there are so many different prefixes for nouns, verbs, adjectives. Think about prefixes we're not going to talk about today, but for numbers like bi or mono. Or Selma saying Shaun loves unicorns. Even the word unicorn, uni, right? Or uni, that's a prefix meaning one, right? It is true. For some reason, I love. Actually, you know what? That's not even a unicorn. You guys should have called me on that. That's a mistake. This is not a unicorn. There's no horn there. That's what is it? A Pegasus? No? All right. Also non-existent, unfortunately. Flying horses. Okay. Nonsense, Marianne says. Maybe she's talking to me, perhaps. But yeah, non-existent means this does not exist, right? As Marianne says, nonsense means it doesn't make sense. Nonsense, illogical, very, very similar. Non-biodegradable. Now, the good thing about a word like that, Michael, non-biodegradable, that word alone has 1, 2, 3 prefixes in it. Right? And for anybody who was in the class last week, go back and listen how I just used the word alone in that sentence. That's what we were talking about last week. Wake, awake, yeah, haha. So there are going to be exceptions, obviously, right? So atypical means not typical, but awake does not mean not wake, right? There are some exceptions, absolutely. Good for you. Non-governmental, that's a good one too. Unicorns do exist, Elena says. Okay, so common adjective prefixes. We said a and non are negative. Well, these guys here too, anti and counter, do have kind of a negative meaning to it. Anti means to be against something, right? And Mohammed's even asking, can we count adjective prefixes? I would say it would take a while, right? I don't know if you can pinpoint exactly how many prefixes there are for adjectives. I honestly don't really think having the exact number is going to help out too much. Okay, but I think starting slowly and gradually building your knowledge of prefixes is good enough. Okay, so anti means against. Counter kind of means opposed to as well, to be opposite of, right? So let me show you a couple examples of that. All right, so thousands of people turned out for the anti-war protest, right? Anti meaning against war, right? No war, anti-war. So you could say anything for this. Anti-war could be anti-government protest, right? Or even an anti-unicorn protest. I don't know why these people would show up for that, but you could show up for an anti-unicorn protest. Yeah, Joniko is saying apolitical, right? That's one of the examples that I gave a couple minutes ago. That's good. Prehistoric is a good one too. So anti-unicorn and counter means, again, the opposite. So a counterclockwise direction is the opposite of clockwise. So, well, I guess right now for you, I'm moving my finger in a clockwise direction, right? But for me, it is counterclockwise. For you, right? This direction is counterclockwise. Good. And you guys are getting way ahead of me here with hyperactive, anti-imperialism. Fancy. Good for you guys. Right, Dilly again is saying invaluable is not negative. That's right. And it's important to remember that there are always going to be exceptions in a language, right? You can never say never and you can never say always when you're talking about prefixes because, as we said, awake, is not negative, and you're saying invaluable is not, does not mean not valuable. Good. Okay, let me talk about a couple more here. Now, pro is the opposite of anti, right? If anti or anti is against, then pro means for, right? For something. So in this sentence, we can change it to thousands of people turned out for the pro-government rally. And you'll notice that I changed the word protest in the previous sentence to the word rally here because rally sounds more pro something, for something, right? I guess that's kind of confusing though, isn't it, right? That protest is against, even though it has the prefix pro in it, right? English, what are you going to do? Shakim is saying, what if he says my counterpart? Counterpart means, yeah, the opposite, kind of your, something who is the opposite of you, or your counterpart is the, yeah, kind of, sometimes we use it to mean complementary or something as well. Okay. All right. Now we'll get to some more here too. Hyper means too much, excessive, right? If something is hyper, for example, his headaches made him hypersensitive to light and sound. Too hyper, right? Or too sensitive, rather. Hypersensitive. Okay? Now, a lot of these things, a lot of these prefixes, too, you need to keep in mind that some of these prefixes can be used for nouns as well, or verbs in some cases, too. So, right, Marianne is saying hyperactive, right? Or hyperactivity would be the noun. Or in this case, hypersensitivity is the noun. Good. Hypertension. Yeah, good one. Hyperlinks. Okay. Hyperlink is a good one for a noun, yes. Okay, extra and super mean beyond, more than, right? Extra means, well, extra. So here's a good word. Extracurricular. At school, do you participate in any extracurricular activities? Hyper means extremely. SDFG is saying. That's exactly right. Hyperinflamed. Hyper is one of those prefixes you hear at the doctor a lot, right? Hypertension, as we said, hypersensitive, hyperinflated. Okay. Now, extracurricular, the word curricular has to do with curriculum, right? Curricular being the adjective. So curriculum is talking about your classes, the study, right? So extracurricular activities are any activities you do at school, but outside of the classroom, outside of the curriculum, the studying side of school. So any kind of sport or drama, for example. I don't know if anybody in the Glee Club or chess club maybe. Any kind of club can be considered an extracurricular activity. Okay, I'm not sure how common it is in your countries or your cultures for students to take part in extracurricular sports teams or clubs at school. Rose is saying, when do we separate between prefix and the root of the word? That's a good question, Rosa. I mean, I wish I could give you an exact, very precise answer to that, and it really depends on the word. Okay. I mean, I guess the obvious answer would be that if you remove the prefix, if that word still makes sense, then it's a prefix and it is not the root. Okay. If you remove the prefix and the remaining word doesn't make sense, then obviously it's affecting that root. Okay. Extrasensory, good. ESP, counterexample. You guys are just cranking them out. Nice. Okay. And then there's these ones, and they're really common. Multi means many, like multicultural, like our class is a multicultural class. Inter means between, all right, or among. International, right? Good. And sub means below, either physically below, like submarine, or kind of figuratively below in the order of power or importance. Okay, so sub-zero, something in Canada that you have to be familiar with, not so much Vancouver, but sub-zero temperatures, right? In Canada, we have a lot of sub-zero temperatures in the wintertime. Again, not so much in Vancouver. SDFG is saying, just like hyperbole, probably talking about Rose's comment. Yeah, I mean, if the word boli doesn't really exist on its own. Good. All right. Sub-ego. Multispectral. Wow. All right. So, before we get to that, we're not doing the mistake of the week yet. It's more practice time for you guys. This is good. Now, let me see what you guys can do with these prefixes. Now, you've been putting lots of new words, lots of adjectives in the chat. Let's see if you can create some adjectives to make sense in these sentences here. Okay. Now, maybe Zach, for anybody who's just joining, if Zach can put the link back in the chat, that would be great. That'd be fantastic if you could do that. Multicolored submarine, good stuff. Yeah, Mark. Don't pay attention to Mark. He's I don't know why he's there. He's just hanging out. All right. So here I'm giving you prefixes and I'm giving you words. Most of these words are adjectives. At least one of them is not an adjective. But you've got to take a prefix, take a word, smush them together, create a new adjective that makes sense in this sentence. Okay, so the first one is, he seemed to enjoy himself at the party despite his tendencies. Despite his tendencies. So you've got all of these prefixes and you've got about 7 words here. How can you make a word to fit in there? Now I'll do the first one for you. Now Rohit, you're saying asocial, not so much asocial. I would say, and Navjot, you got it. I would say antisocial, right? Despite his antisocial tendencies, meaning he doesn't like to be social, okay? So here I took anti or anti, put social together, made a new word, okay? And it fits, makes sense in that sentence. So there are 6 more sentences that you have to create or you have to complete by building some words up here. Now, each word and each prefix is only used once. There are more prefixes than you need, just to challenge you guys, right? Just to make it a little bit more challenging for you. So again, I'm going to pop off the screen, okay? And I want you guys to finish those sentences, okay? I'm going to put that music back on. I'm out of here. All right, good stuff, guys. I know some of you are still working on it, but we're running a little bit low on time. I want to make sure that we have time to talk about all of this stuff. All right, good stuff. Some good stuff coming in here. Okay, so maybe in a couple of them, or at least one, there might be more than one possible answer. Let's talk about it. Okay. So A, we said antisocial or antisocial tendencies. Good. Now B is kind of, maybe it's a matter of opinion, right? So for young children, it is important to take part in physical activity. Now what kind of physical activity should young children be taking part in? I think some people said like hyper-competitive. Maybe, yeah, you might feel that way. I mean, today we started by talking about differences, cultural differences, maybe. Because I would say non-competitive. Non-competitive physical activity. Although now that I'm looking at it, I see that I have used the one prefix twice. I made a little bit of a mistake with this exercise, but that's okay. All right, so non-competitive physical activity. Extra competitive or hyper competitive. I mean, maybe you could say that, super competitive. Although I'm not sure if for young children it's best for their physical activity to be super competitive. I would say non-competitive physical activity. Okay. What about C? I think most people got C. C was one that maybe was one of the ones that lots of people got. Okay, so we said many plants and animals have an, and I even gave you a little bit of a hint here, right? With an, you know that it has to be a vowel, right? And Selma got it. I think Marianne got it too. Zainab got it good. Okay, so for C is interdependent, right? A dependence that goes among and between the species, the plants and the animals. Obviously, the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and everything working together in a mutual dependence of one another. Good. All right. Now, what about the next one? D. Halloween is coming up. That's why I put that in there. So some of the more common Halloween costumes include ghosts, vampires, and other. And a lot of you, who got that? Let me give a shout out to somebody. Who got it? Kaio got it. Good stuff. And Marianne got it too, yeah. And Seifel got it too, I think. Oh, he got supernatural, but for D, I think you meant there. Supernatural. Supernatural creatures, ghosts, vampires, werewolves, and other non-existent things. All right. What about E? It said it is believed, that was a previous class, it is believed by many managers that working long hours can actually be, now I think Valerie, you said non-productive. And I know it's difficult. I know that this exercise is a little bit tricky, yeah. Karine is saying, hello from Paris. Hi, Karine. All right, so Valerie said non-productive, and that works too. Actually, to say non-productive means not productive. That's okay. Another good word that you guys should know is counterproductive. Means that it is actually the opposite of productive, because in this sentence, sometimes people work longer days, long hours, because they think it's productive. Yeah, Steve Lynn, you got it. Black Dragon's Dojo. Wow, that's a serious name there, Black Dragon's Dojo. Yeah, you got counterproductive. Good for you. Now, yeah, because oftentimes we think working a long day or staying up late to study, for example, we do that for a test the next day, but studies have shown that it can be counterproductive, that it can actually not just not be productive, not just non-productive, but it can actually take away from the productivity, right? If you stay up super late for a test the next day, your memory isn't working as well, right? If you stay at work and work long hours, you're tired. How much good work are you actually doing at the end of the day versus staying at work for the regular amount and just working hard, right? So that's That's counterproductive. Kaya's saying unproductive. I think that I think that's okay too. Yeah, I think non-productive would be the more common. And Marianne is saying it depends on the people. Absolutely, it always depends on the people, right? Everybody's different. You're all like snowflakes. F. The public can often be of the personal lives and choices of celebrities. So critical is the word you're looking for. So how critical can we be of Brad and Angelina? We can be hyper critical, right? To be hypercritical means too critical, excessively critical, right? We look at their lives and their choices and we judge them, right? That's what we do, right? Right. What about G? He donates a significant amount annually to organizations running programs for the poor. All right, and somebody, who got that one? Who got that one? Samir got it. And it is non-profit, right? A non-profit organization, a company that does not make money, does not make profit, okay? Some really good adjectives there. Using. Now, non-profitable from Rohit, I know it sounds the same, but if you say non-profitable, it sounds like you're trying to make money, but you can't make money, right? If you say I started a new business, but it was not profitable, so I closed it. A non-profit organization is one that the intention is not to make money. Steveland says you use non twice, and I know. That was my mistake of the week, right? Is that I used non twice. Or maybe I was just trying to trick you. Maybe that's why. Maybe I did it on purpose, Steve. Okay. All right. So, good adjectives to know. No, we're running low on time, but we've got time for the mistake of the week. I think, don't we? I think so. You guys aren't. You're not going to bed yet, are you? No, you're not going to bed. It's only like 2 o'clock in the morning where you are, right? So you're going to stay up with me for a couple more minutes. All right. And again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. But now it's time for the real mistake of the week. Okay? So you guys know how this works. I'm going to put a sentence up there. Black Dragon, you're in New Jersey. Wow. Okay, yeah, so it's not in the middle of, it's not, yeah, I hope you're wide awake. I think it's only, like 2 o'clock in New Jersey, I think, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put a sentence up here on the screen, and I want you guys to find me the mistake. Okay? There's one mistake in there. Whoever finds it first is the fastest person on the internet. Okay. All right. So Shakeem is saying, you missed the class. Well, you haven't missed the whole class because you're here in time, Shakeem, to find me a mistake in this sentence. Okay? So I'm going to pop off the screen. I'm going to put that music on that's getting tons of complaints from you guys. All right. You guys want the old faithful monkey music back. Take a look at this sentence. Find the mistake. I'm going to give you 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm coming back. All right, here we go. right, that was fast. You guys are, yeah, you're giving me the answer. I tried to trick you. No, Marianne, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You are correct, right? And you're the winner, right? Marianne is the fastest person on the internet on this day in 2016, all right? I tried to trick you because I like to trick my students, right? Because I put in a couple prefixes because I thought that that would make you focus on that. Extraterrestrial life and supernatural events. Ciro, you're saying it's hard for you. I know, it's... Jem is saying it's unsafe to touch inside the toaster with a knife. That's exactly the point. You're right. Okay, now, what's the mistake here? It's not extraterrestrial. It's not supernatural. It's a very common mistake. It's so common that Marianne found it. She found it, and then she thought she was wrong because it's so common. But she was right. She was the first. And you know why she was the first? Because she came to Vancouver and studied with me. Right? Right? Yes. Okay, so the answer is most of, right? A very common mistake that students of English make is putting of after most and creating a bit of an awkward little mistake. It's not a huge mistake, right? It's not going to change the meaning of the sentence, but it does stand out as a mistake, okay? So in the survey, most of students said they believed in extraterrestrial life but not in supernatural events. You cannot say most of students, right? If you say most of and then followed by a noun, you're going to have the word the, right? And now I think I'm realizing that I didn't actually fix the mistake. Usually I put the corrected version here, but I didn't do that. So you want to let me get this color in here. Take that word out of there, right? And say most students or most of the students. But you can't say most of students. It's just not possible. And you say, why? Why not? I'm going to say just because that's the rule. All right? So again, it's not a huge mistake, but be careful of your use of after most. Most of the students, most students. I think in this sentence, in the survey, most students, I would just take of out of there and just say most students said. If you want to put the in there, Seifel says the, that's fine too. Rohit is saying, does singular or plural verb come after most of? Now that's a good question. In this case, Rohit, I would say that it depends on the prepositional phrase. Okay, yeah, because most, you're talking about a proportion of something. If it's plural, if it's countable and it's plural, then you want a plural verb. Okay, if you're talking about one whole thing, like most of the pizza, then you say singular. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you're not sure about that, we did have a video, a previous class teaching that exact lesson, the subject-verb agreement. Okay, good stuff. All right, so let me get rid of that red. All right, now the jackknife. Why am I showing this? Because we are just about out of time. The whole point of this class was to talk about, Selma wants to talk about pizza, is to talk about how a single word can be transformed into multiple words for multiple purposes, right? Ooh, isn't that fancy of me to make that connection, right? By adding different prefixes to the same word, you can create new words, okay? Mohammed is saying, can we say most of the people? Yes, you can. All right, so for example, here's my little Swiss Army knife. You take a word like active, right? Active, and you can make inactive, interactive, hyperactive, and proactive, right? Four completely different words made from one adjective just by adding the prefix. Now, going back to the class that we had about suffixes, you can then go and create even more words. Inactive can become inaction, right? Interactive becomes interactivity, for example, okay? Or interaction, right? Okay. Steve's talking about most of the people, most of the apples. No, you say most of the apples are, or were, Steve. Okay? Rose is asking a question. I get 3 sad faces from Rosa for not answering your question. What was your question, Rosa? Ask me again. I missed it. All right, put your question back in there. I don't see it. All right, so here's something you can do for a little bit of extra practice. There we go. I'm going to get out of here in a minute because it's time for me to continue my day, and it's time for some of you guys to go to sleep. I don't know, maybe it's time for Black Dragon Dojo to go for a walk in the New Jersey sun. I'm not sure, but here are 5 questions looking for adjectives. Right? What's the adjective for something cooked so badly that you cannot eat it? Right? If you burn something and you cannot eat it, what adjective would you use for that? Rose's question is, when we are talking about a survey, we usually don't use the word most. We have to be more precise. Is that right? I don't necessarily agree with that, Rose. I mean, it depends on what the context is, in what situation. If you're using it in an essay or something, Rosa, yeah, you should probably be more specific and give a percentage, right? Yeah, for sure. Now, overcooked, Hedger says, now Soul jumped in there and got it. I hope that answers your question, Rosa. Let me show you this. So something cooked so badly that you cannot eat it. Soul got in there and said, inedible, right? Inedible. Steve is saying un. I would say inedible. All right. Now, these are things that you can take a couple minutes and do. I'll put the answers on the Facebook page, okay? And you guys can check them out because sadly, it's time for us to say goodbye. Not time for us to finish. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Shakim is saying, you wish you had teachers like me? Well, you do. Oh, in the Caribbean. Okay. Well, maybe I'll buy me a plane ticket. Okay. Buy me a plane ticket to the Caribbean and I'll be there, I promise. Okay. So guys, once again, it's back to the red screen because it's time to say goodbye, right? An hour goes by so quickly, but it is inevitable. It is unavoidable that we say goodbye, right? But again, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to come in here and teach you guys and talk to people from around the globe. Thank you for staying up super late to hang out with me if it's super late. But thanks for just stopping by in the afternoon as well. It's good to see you. Okay, so I will be back here next week, same time. All right, I hope to see you then. In the meantime, from now until then, keep practicing your English. Keep trying to use these prefixes and expand your vocabulary. Okay? Keep checking out the Facebook page, Learn English on Facebook. Watch our videos. Like us on Facebook. Like us on YouTube. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Yeah, it's the same day, same time. And also, keep in mind that there are other classes you can watch as well. You've got Neil and Nicole and Mark and Josh. All of these people putting great classes at different levels for you guys to check out. And again, for more information about that, you can always ask Zach as well, or visit our website for the Canadian College of English Language here in Vancouver is canada-english.com. All right. Have a super wonderful day, Steve says. Yeah, I will certainly try to do that. All right, guys. Time to say goodbye. We'll see you here next week. I look forward to it. Until then, keep practicing your English. Bye, bye, bye. I'm getting lots of byes and lots of love in the chat. All right, guys. See you next time.